One of the most important skills we learn in algebra is that of solving equations. Most of the equations that we're going to be solving are equations that we can't solve by inspection. So what we do is we transform the equations into equivalent equations, and eventually our goal is to get x, if x is what we're trying to solve for, to equal a constant. Now the transformations that we make on equations, we have safe transformations to make and we have unsafe transformations. The safe transformations involve either adding or subtracting a number to both sides of an equation, or multiplying or dividing a number to both sides of an equation. These are fairly safe transformations so long as we're careful that what we do to one side we do to the other side. For example, if this is the equation here that we're trying to solve, 1/2 x minus 2 equals 5, then what we're going to try to do is to isolate the variable, get the variable by itself, and we're first going to start out by adding 2 to both sides. And when we add 2 to both sides, we get the equation, an equivalent equation to the first one. We get y at 1/2 x equals 7. Now another transformation that we make that's a very safe one is that we're going to multiply to get rid of the 1/2. We're going to multiply 2 to this equation on both sides. And all of these are equivalent equations, and our end result is we get x to equal 4. And so our goal has been reached, and so x equals 4, 14 is the solution. Unsafe transformations involve multiplying and dividing both sides, not by a number, but by a variable or an expression. These two situations may create problems, and I want to look at each situation individually. So if we multiply or we divide both sides of an equation by an expression or a variable, we can run into problems, and so we must be very. Let's take for example this problem here. To solve this equation, what we'd like to do is multiply both sides by the quantity x minus 4. So if I multiply both sides by the quantity x minus 4, what's the problem? What kind of situation could happen that might give me some trouble? Well, when I multiply both sides by x minus 4 and I distribute it over the 2, x minus 4 times 2 is 2x minus 8, and x minus 4 times this expression is just 5, and when I multiply x minus 4 times this, I get x plus 1. Now this is an equivalent equation, except that in this equation, the original equation, x could never be 4. Here x could be 4. So let's solve this equation and see what happens. As I collect like terms, negative 8 plus 5 is negative 3, and I multiply both sides and add 3 and subtract, I get x to be 4. And so though x is 4 for this one, for this equation, it isn't 4 for the original one. It must solve the original. So sometimes multiplying both sides by an expression could create a problem, can create solutions that don't exist for the original. Those are called extraneous solutions. And so really the solution to this problem is there is no solution to this equation. So multiplying both sides by an expression or a variable can create problems. Now let's see what happens when we divide both sides by a variable. In the case of this example, x squared equals 4x. If we take and we divide both sides of this equation by x, we get x to be 4. And that is a solution. When I go to check it, 4 squared is 16 and 4 times 4 is 16. But what's the problem with this? Is that by dividing both sides by a variable, we eliminate solutions. The real way with this problem should have been done would be not to divide, but to subtract 4x on both sides, so that we could factor and use the zero product property. And the real solution to this problem is x is equal to 0 or 4. And since we divided both sides by x, we eliminate solutions. So multiplying both sides by a variable or an expression could create solutions that don't exist, called extraneous. And dividing both sides by a variable could eliminate solutions. So be careful of these two situations. In the case of the numbers, we're fine. But in the case of expressions, be very careful.